A few years ago, an antique collector bought an ornate mirror at an auction of unclaimed items. The object, carved with delicate details and aged glass, seemed just an elegant piece from the past century. But since the day it was installed in his house, he noticed something strange. Nightmares began to visit him every night. The clocks in the house stopped at 3 in the morning, and the guests said they felt inexplicable chills when passing by the hallway where the mirror was hanging. Curiously, the mirror came from a property where a fire had occurred. Information revealed only months later. Coincidence or not, the collector got rid of the object, and to his surprise, life returned to normal. Since then, he started avoiding any item that had an unknown history. This leads us to a disturbing question. Is it possible that objects carry more than their material value? The answer is not simple, and perhaps that's precisely why it is so fascinating. Even though there is no conclusive evidence, reports like the collector's are multiplying around the world. There are people who swear that certain items carry memories, emotional traits, or even subtle influences from their former owners. This applies to gifts, inherited objects, things found on the street, and even that simple jar of salt you received without thinking. In this video, we will reveal 7 things you should never accept from anyone, not out of superstition, but because of the possible consequences you may have never considered. Each item brings a story, an unexpected logic, and an impact that goes beyond what the eyes can see. If you have ever felt that something in your life changed after receiving an object from someone, maybe it wasn't just an impression. Get started. 1. Salt, the crystal that absorbs more than flavor. In a coastal village, there is a silent tradition. No family accepts salt from another house, not even as a gift. If someone tries to offer, the response is usually polite but firm. Here, we season with what is ours. For those coming from outside, this may seem strange, even exaggerated. But there, everyone knows the reason. Well, once, a resident accepted a jar of salt from a neighbor. There was nothing wrong with the gesture itself. It was just a loan. However, in the following days, fights at home began. Insomnia, inexplicable tension. After returning the salt, everything went back to normal. She never accepted anything like that again. This account, like so many others, suggests something curious. Salt, besides being a condiment, seems to have a silent ability to store impressions. Not physical, but emotional. Historically, salt is revered for its purifying properties. It was used in protection rituals in ancient Egypt, spread on doors in southern Europe, and even thrown over the shoulder as a way to ward off bad luck. A practice whose origin no one knows for sure. What few discuss is the reason why so many cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, reach similar conclusions about this mineral. Even today, some people claim that it is enough for someone to touch the salt for its emotional charge, positive or negative, to become imbued in it. An idea that sounds strange to science, but that remains alive in spiritual and popular circles. There are no official statistics to prove this, nor widely recognized experiments, but there are hundreds of stories, and not all of them can be ignored. If a simple handful of salt can carry the invisible weight of another person, then why do we accept this gesture without thinking? Maybe it's time to pay more attention to what we put on the table. What seems harmless can, over time, alter not only the taste of the food, but also the atmosphere of the home. 2. Wallets and bags, the silent reflection of financial life. A young man inherited his uncle's wallet. It was dark leather, elegant, almost new. Inside, there were still some old papers, expired cards, a receipt dated over 5 years ago. Nothing apparently relevant. He kept the wallet as a memento, but he started using it daily. What happened in the following months, he could never explain. Late, bills started to pile up. He lost a promising job due to details beyond his control. And for the first time in his life, he needed to ask for financial help. Only after a long time, someone asked him, "Have you ever thought that this wallet might not just be an object?" It is common for us to treat wallets and bags as mere containers, places where we keep money, documents, and sometimes even small secrets. But what almost nobody discusses is the symbolic energy of these items. After all, they are not just utilitarian. They are direct extensions of our relationship with resources and the external world. There are those who say that a wallet doesn't just carry bills. It carries the financial history of those who used it, their losses, their debts, their intentions. And when this object passes from one hand to another, what else might be being transferred? There is no consensus. Economic science does not recognize these subtle connections, but if we observe closely, we will notice a curious pattern. People who adopt third-party wallets, especially those with a difficult history, often report unexpected changes in their financial lives. It could be a coincidence, but it could also be something we still don't know how to measure. The absence of statistics on this is glaring. There are no data, research, or academic theses explaining why certain objects seem to carry with them a fortune or a lack thereof. But even so, popular wisdom insists on warning: never use the wallet of someone who has gone bankrupt. Maybe by intuition, maybe out of experience, or maybe because, in certain cases, what we carry in our pockets affects us more than we imagine. 3. Mirrors. When the reflected image holds what has already passed. A lady was renovating her old house when she decided to change the furniture in the bedroom. Among the items that were to be discarded, there was a mirror with a golden frame, inherited from an aunt who had lived alone for decades. For some inexplicable reason, she hesitated to get rid of it. It was beautiful, old, almost intact. He took it to the new room and hung it facing the bed. A few nights later, sleep began to elude her. She would wake up with the feeling of being watched. Sometimes, she swore she had seen a movement in the glass, even though she was alone. She tried to ignore it, until by chance, when moving the mirror to a different place, they started sleeping well again. And then she wondered, why does no one talk about this? Mirrors have always had an aura of mystery. In some cultures, they are covered when someone dies, as if they were windows to something we do not understand. In others, mirrors facing the bed are avoided as if the reflection could capture not only the image, but also something more subtle. Although there is no scientific proof that mirrors absorb or reflect emotional energy, it is not uncommon to hear stories of people reporting changes in their environment or their own mood after bringing a used mirror home. Most studies on mirrors focus on visual distortions, self-image perception, or light reflections. There is no recent research, nor old, that investigates the emotional impact of inherited mirrors. This leaves an uncomfortable gap, especially for those who have already experienced strange sensations in front of an old mirror. Would it be possible that these objects, made to reflect the exterior, also hold echoes of the interior of those who used them? Even without definitive answers, one thing is certain: by accepting a mirror that once belonged to someone, you are not just acquiring a decorative item, you are taking home an object that has witnessed silences, gestures, tears, smiles, perhaps for decades. And no matter how harmless it seems, what a mirror has seen, no one can erase. 4. Locks and bolts. When control comes from outside. During a cleaning in his grandmother's basement, a man found a small wooden box with an old lock. Inside it, there was a rusty padlock and a key wrapped in a linen handkerchief. Without thinking much, he took the object to the office as a decorative curiosity. In the following days, a subtle pattern began to emerge: stalled ideas, postponed business, doors closing literally and symbolically. Gradually, the coincidence began to bother, and an unexpected doubt arose. Could something so small block more than just a closet? Locks and bolts are among the most universal symbols of protection. They guarantee security, privacy, control. But what happens when that control is no longer in your hands? Historically, padlocks have been used in rituals of intention, sealing vows, protecting feelings, keeping secrets. In many cultures, a padlock is still attached to a bridge today as a promise of eternal love. But what happens when the intention behind this gesture is negative, or when the lock was used to imprison, instead of protect. Little is said about it. No modern study explores the energetic symbolism of these objects, nor the possible psychological or emotional effects of receiving a used lock. The absence of data only increases curiosity. Why are such common objects surrounded by so much silence? By accepting someone else's lock or padlock, we might be making room for intentions we do not know, and unknowingly handing over part of our free will to an energy that does not belong to us. An object made to close when it wasn't chosen by you can signify boundaries that shouldn't be there, and locking what wasn't yours to open can cost more than you imagine. 5. Used mattresses. The place where dreams mix. Shortly after moving into a new apartment, a young woman accepted a mattress offered by an acquaintance. It was in good condition, clean, and seemingly comfortable, but the first nights revealed something unexpected: confusing dreams, strange physical sensations upon waking, and a constant feeling of fatigue. There was no medical explanation. There were no noises in the building, but there was something in that bed that seemed to prevent her from resting. It was only after months of restless nights that she decided to get rid of the mattress, and, as if by magic, sleep returned. She never understood what happened. She only knew that, since then, she started thinking twice before accepting any object where others had already slept. It's easy to forget that we spend a third of our lives sleeping, and that the place where we rest our bodies every night is also the space where our minds wander freely. The mattress is not just a piece of furniture. It is a silent witness to intimate thoughts, interrupted dreams, nights of anguish or calm. While sleep science focuses on habits, the environment, and pre-bedtime routines, the emotional history of the object itself is rarely discussed. No major study has dedicated itself to evaluating the impact of sleeping on used mattresses from others. But curiously, there are countless reports of people feeling different when changing their resting place. Even if all visible factors remain the same, the absence of concrete explanations leaves room for an uncomfortable question. Does the mattress absorb more than body heat? It might be an exaggeration, it might be intuition, but if a bed retains the shape of the body, why wouldn't it also retain fragments of what the body felt? Accepting someone else's mattress can be more than just a practical gesture. It can be a silent invitation to share dreams, memories, and worries that are not yours, and in the most vulnerable space of your routine. Sleep. This might be more relevant than it seems. 6. Objects of deceased people. When memory becomes presence. A man found among the family's old belongings a pocket watch that had belonged to his grandfather. Without hesitation, he began to carry it with him every day, not out of vanity, but as a way to keep alive the memory of the one who raised him. At first, he felt more confident, closer to his roots, but over time, the forgetfulness came. Small accidents, a persistent discomfort, as if something always pulled him back to the past. He didn't associate the watch with any of that, until the day he forgot it at home, and for the first time in months, he felt light. This type of experience is not uncommon. Many people keep objects from loved ones: rings, clothes, letters, furniture. These items offer comfort, yes, but sometimes they also carry a weight that's hard to name. It is clear that there is no concrete evidence that inherited objects cause emotional or physical changes. There is also no extensive research exploring how the emotional energy imbued in these items can affect those who keep them. But the absence of studies is not the absence of effect, and the reports are piling up. Would it be possible that, by keeping the belongings of someone who has passed away, we are unconsciously trying to hold on to what is no longer here? And by doing this, do we bind ourselves to emotional states that prevent us from moving forward? Keeping objects of the deceased is not, by itself, something negative. The problem lies in the type of bond that is established with it. There are objects that comfort, and there are those that interrupt the natural flow of time, that keep us in cycles of longing that become stagnation. It's not always easy to perceive this difference, but if when you look at something, you feel a weight instead of presence, maybe it's time to question, Does this connect me or hold me back? Not every bond needs to be visible to be strong, and not every memory needs to take up physical space to remain alive. 7. Items found on the street. When chance carries stories that aren't yours. A woman was walking down a deserted street when she spotted a golden necklace lying on the sidewalk. It was delicate, it seemed valuable. Without thinking, he took the object and brought it home. In the following days, a series of mishaps began to unfold. Devices breaking for no reason, inexplicable delays, arguments that seemed to come out of nowhere. Only then did she remember the necklace, and for the first time, she wondered, could what we find by chance also carry consequences? Finding something unexpected can seem like luck, a gift from fate, a fortunate coincidence, but we rarely stop to reflect on what brought that object there, who lost it, under what circumstances, what emotions were involved. Items found on the street, whether they are jewelry, wallets, clothes, or small trinkets, have an unknown origin, and with it, a story that is not always visible. Some say that certain objects absorb what has been experienced with them: frustrations, losses, conflicts, unresolved intentions. Taking something like that home is like opening the door to a story that isn't yours. Science does not investigate this type of phenomenon. There are no articles, data, or statistics that explain why some people report bad luck or discomfort after finding and keeping objects of dubious origin. But there are also no plausible explanations for the number of similar stories that arise around it, as if chance had more intention than one might imagine. There is a difference between finding something lost and embracing what should remain in the past. Not everything that shines was meant to be recovered, and sometimes, the material value of an object is less than the emotional cost of keeping it close. Before keeping something you found, ask yourself, if this object came from an unknown story, am I ready to continue writing that story? Because what is on the floor may not have been left there by accident, but by necessity. What lies behind what is received? Perhaps the greatest risk lies not in the object itself, but in the blind trust with which we accept it, in the automatic impulse to receive, store, and use without questioning where it came from, who handled it, or what it has already represented. We live surrounded by things. Some enter our lives with clarity, others arrive laden with unspoken intentions, memories of stories we haven't lived. And it is precisely this type of presence that affects the most, the one that settles in without being noticed. It's easy to think that a gift is just a gift, that a wallet is just an accessory, that a mirror is just a reflection. But what if each of these items were, in fact, a fragment of something greater, of a past that hasn't ended yet, of a narrative that, by accepting it, we begin to continue, even without knowing? No one teaches how to protect one's subtle space. Few talk about it, even fewer stop to reflect. But today, maybe it's time to start. The next time someone offers you something, an apparently simple, useful, beautiful object, try to listen to what it brings beyond its form. Try to feel if there is a trace of discomfort that arises, even without reason. Sometimes, the body understands what the mind takes time to grasp. After all, there are things that carry invisible marks, and you don't need to believe in them to be affected by them. In the end, it all comes down to a silent choice: what we let in and what we learn to refuse.